What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down some QB drills that will help you take your game to the next level. Let's get started. Now, before we get into this video, fellas, if you're a quarterback and would like to train with us this offseason, we're coming out to 15 different cities across the country for two-day long QB and wide receiver camps. So check out that very first link in the description below if we're coming to a city near you. We're coming out to San Francisco, California, Miami, Florida, Las Vegas, Nevada. Then we'll be heading out to Charlotte, North Carolina, Portland, Oregon. Then we'll be coming out to Dallas, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, Chicago, Illinois, Buffalo, New York, Houston, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Detroit, Michigan, Boise, Idaho, and Los Angeles, California. So guys, if we're coming out to any one of those cities near you, we'd love to have you out to one of our off-season camps. So again, very first link in that description below. Let's get back to this video. All right, guys, so all of these drills that we are going to be going over today are going to help you out with your throwing mechanics. So this first drill I like to call the hip walk or a QB walk. A lot of you guys know this as like the Dak Prescott drill. So we're going to kind of break down the science of this drill, why you want to do this drill, and why it's one of the best drills for quarterbacks. And all these drills today, fellas, are going to be very, very similar to this one. So this hip walk drill, like you guys have all probably seen it, Dak Prescott warm up. You've seen other quarterbacks do it where they're working on their hip sequence. They're working on their stride getting down, their hips going through, and their shoulders being separate from their hips. Now, why is that important for a quarterback? So as a quarterback, when it comes down to accuracy and when it comes down to velocity, a lot of that comes from something called hip and shoulder dissociation, right? Now, that's a fancy word for hip and shoulder separation. You want to have your upper body be separate from your lower body. Now, a lot of people call that, or I at least call that, the throwing sequence. Some people call that the kinetic sequence, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it. But it's all based on generating torque as a rotational athlete, right? So I think of the throwing sequence when you throw a football a lot like hitting a baseball, right? So I don't know how many of you guys play baseball, but I'm sure all of you can understand this. Like you're in the batter's box, you're sitting here, pitcher throws you a pitch, right? When he throws you a pitch, what do? You take a step at the pitcher, your front foot gets down, but does the bat come through at the same time? No, you take a step to the pitcher, bat stays here, and what do they teach you from the time you're 5 years old in baseball? You want to squish the back bug to get your hips to come through, and that brings the bat through. The bat is trailing behind your hips. So guess what? Your hips are separate from your shoulders. Baseball hitters, golfers, and quarterbacks, and many other positions, but we're all rotational athletes, and we generate power and consistency the same way. So think about a throwing motion, right? And when you watch any of the 32 NFL starters, they all throw the ball differently. They all have different mechanics in terms of their arm, in terms of their build, whatever it is, but they all have this mechanical sequence somewhat similar. And again, that's what these drills are going to be working on. So when you go to throw, you're standing in the pocket, you want to be almost standing like a batter in the batter's box. You want to have weight loaded onto your back leg. I like to say you want to be about 70-30. You want to be very light on this front foot. Now, you go to throw. Let's say I'm throwing like a post over the middle. I want to step to the target, but when I step to the target, I want to maintain that weight that I have on my back leg that I got to pre-throw. You keep your weight back right here. The stride is separate from the back leg push, because when you keep weight on your back leg, that allows you to get to that separation position. So I go here, I step to the target, I want my weight to stay back. A lot of old school quarterback coaches used to teach, okay, you want to be here, but you want to push off the back foot. But when you push off the back foot and you take a step and all your body weight goes this way, guess what you can't do? You can't rotate your shoulders back. You don't have that separation, and everything is coming through at the same time, losing torque. Guys, remember, torque comes from hips shooting through before the upper half. That slingshot is how I get torque and velocity on that ball. So when you go to throw, the stride is separate from the back leg drive. I want weight on my back leg, I step, but I maintain the weight. I don't push forward. I step to the target, and it's just for a split second. It's not like 1, 2. It's for a split second. But your weight stays loaded, you step. Now, when you keep weight on your back leg, look how easy it is for me to rotate my shoulders. I can rotate all day long because my weight's back here. Weight shifts forward, can't rotate. I'm in my base pre-throw. Even if I'm trying to keep my weight back, I can't rotate. Let's start 70% back here, like a baseball swing. So I'm here. You step, shoulders go back, we separate. This point right here is different for every single quarterback. A lot of guys like to get to an L. A lot of guys are below that. Some guys are above that. Whatever it is, I just need to be here. Now, stride gets down. That's the first part of the throwing sequence. Throwing sequence is 4 parts. So it's going to be stride, 1, weight stays back. Actually, disregard. Base is number 1. Got to get to a base, 70% back. That's 1. Stride, 2. As you stride, upper body stays back. Number 3. hips fire through. Now we're starting to rotate. Number 4, shoulders in the ball. This back hip can drive through before your elbow. That alleviates stress off the arm, and that's going to give you a little bit more velocity to the ball, okay? But that stride has to be short. It's got to be in the grass as your weight stays back and as you keep those shoulders here, okay? So that's what that drill is essentially working on, that hip walk or that Dak Prescott drill, if you will. So it's working on the first part, or the first like 2 to 3 parts of the throwing sequence. So you need 5 to 10 yard space. The rhythm of this, weight starts back, it's left, right, left. Here, left, right, left. Notice how foot's getting down, weight's staying back so my shoulders can separate. Left, right, left. All you're going to do is that same left, right, left rhythm for that 5 to 10 yard space to work that first 1 to 3 parts of that throwing sequence to generate more torque and more consistency on the ball. I'm going to show you how this thing's going to look full speed. All right, guys, so this next drill is going to be something called a straight jacket, because your arms are literally going to be like you're in like a straight jacket. It's like what they put crazy people in, like where they can't move their arms. That's how I want your arms to be. So this is going to promote the full throwing sequence, the actual full rotation through, letting your hips bring the shoulders through. Because remember, our throwing sequence, we want to have weight loaded on my back leg. I want to stride. I don't want a long stride, because when you take this long stride, where does your body weight go? Body weight goes forward. I can't stay back. Shoulders end up coming through, elbow, shoulder ahead of my hips, and that puts a lot of pressure on the elbow and the shoulder because you're holding the football, and that's a much heavier object than like a baseball or something where you could take a long stride. A lot of people will say like, oh, well, you talk a lot about the stride length. Well, baseball pitchers take this real long stride. Why can they do it and quarterbacks can't? Well, number one, football is a lot heavier than a baseball, so that puts a lot of stress on your rotator cuff and your elbow. Long stride takes longer to get down, so guess what? Your release time is slower. Pitchers want a long release. Quarterbacks do not, because if you have a long release, you're going to get your head taken off, number one. Number two, the ball is going to get picked off because you can't get the ball there on time. So we want that short stride and those hips to fire me through so the ball gets out of my hands fast. My arm speed is quicker, and that's why we don't ultimately want to end up throwing like a pitcher, right? But that's besides the point. So this drill is to work on that full throwing sequence and rotation through. So remember, we want stride, weight stays back so my shoulders could stay back. Hips fire through, and that brings the shoulders through. This drill works on the hips bringing the shoulders through. So again, what you're doing, starting out in a straight jacket position, arms are crossed, same rhythm as the last one. It's going to be left, right. Notice how my weight stays back, almost like you're arcing your shoulders, but don't. Step with the left. So it's left, right, left. It's left, right, left. Shoulders go back. Hips bring the shoulders through. Reset. Left, right, left. Hips go through, bring the shoulders. Left, right, left. Hips bring the shoulders through. We want to try to avoid my shoulders ripping open violently, because when we throw, fellas, your body is broken down with a midline. Midline, imaginary line that goes down the middle of your body. If your front shoulder is ripping open, that arm pulls off the midline, and sometimes that can cause my release point to fly outside my body frame, causing me to miss left to right and across, almost throwing sidearm, if you will. So this drill can help us get used to my hips fully rotating the shoulders through, keeping my shoulders nice and quiet, and allowing me to stay level with my shoulders at my release, so my release point's inside my body frame, and I can extend, not come across and miss left to right on the throw. So I'm going to show you how this straight jacket drill is going to look full speed. All right, guys, so this next drill, we are going to be using a towel. So a towel is a great tool for quarterbacks to work on their extension point and their release point. So what is an extension point, and why is that important? So extension is like the icing on the cake for a throw, right? Remember we talked about at the end of that straight jacket drill, how you don't want to swing your front elbow open and over-rotate with your shoulder, because that can pull your body off of that midline, that imaginary line down the middle of your frame. So when you pull off the midline, your release goes outside your body and you're coming across. That is not extension. You could flick your wrist all day long. That's not extension. Extension is when I literally extend and my arm goes straight to the target, right? That extension point is where accuracy comes from, and also spin, and that has a lot to do with staying with the disciplined front side. So the towel is a great check to see if you are extending. If you're coming across your body, you can't really hear the whip of the towel. But if you're staying compact at the front side and letting your hips fire you through, you could hear that whip of the towel at the release point, and that's a good gauge to see if you're extending. So that's why quarterbacks work the towel. These next two drills are going to be on the towel solely. Again, don't need a partner for these drills and don't need a lot of space. Now, one of the mistakes that quarterbacks make with the throwing sequence, like we talked about on that hip walk drill, is they'll be here, and what they'll do is, remember, they push. They push to create the stride. Now, why is that bad? Body weight goes forward. You can't get to that dissociation position with your shoulders back. Back foot gets outside your body frame. You can't rotate, and you're throwing all arm, putting a lot of pressure on the elbow and the shoulder. And sometimes when you're not rotating at your hips, what do guys like to do? They like to do this for power or over-rotate, and that flaws the release point. So this is a drill I call a no stride drill to help you without pushing, just thinking more rotational. So what you're going to do, face the target. Already have your front foot strided like you went to throw. Weight still stays on the back leg, two hands stay on the ball. Without moving your front foot, we're just going to throw. So you're going to separate your hands, and you're just going to let that front hip rip you open while maintaining the weight on your back leg at the start of this. So this helps you rotate your shoulders. This is great for any quarterback who pushes with this long stride or has improper weight distribution. So again, front stride open, we're here, shoulders close, hips fire you through. Again, shoulders close, hips fire you through. So that's a great drill for quarterbacks to work on their weight staying back on the foot strike to have that proper throwing sequence. All right, guys, so this next drill is going to help a lot of quarterbacks with their hitch at the top of the drop. So this is for like a deeper throw, like a deep post, you know, like maybe like a dagger concept where you're throwing like a 15-yard dig where you take a 3-step drop from gun, you hitch up, and this helps us get my weight back on that hitch that I am taking, right? So I just call this a simple hitch drill. Again, we're going to be on the towel. So a lot of quarterbacks, they'll drop back, they'll get a ton of depth on their drop, and they'll hit the top of the drop like this, almost looking like a bike kickstand, which is totally fine. You're getting depth. You're dropping back fast. It is tough for you to just plant with 70% on your back leg, like we mentioned before, with a drop where you're trying to get some depth and let the play develop, I guess you could say. So that's where the hitch comes from. You get to here, but when your weight's forward, we know that's not a mechanically sound position. I can't throw like this. So when I hitch up on the throw, I got to essentially replace my feet. Don't click your heels together, obviously, but I got to replace my feet and shift my weight back to get to this base. But when we do that, there's a lot of momentum there. And if you can control that momentum and get to a mechanically sound spot, that ball is going to jump off of your hand. Not to mention if you're in an offense, because I personally teach this to the quarterbacks I work with. I know not everybody has this footwork, but if you're doing like a shuffle footwork, that's a great way to generate momentum fast on even throws that don't necessarily require a traditional 3-step drop and a hitch like a timing out route or a timing post route. But that's besides the point. It just helps you generate momentum, and that's what this drill is for. So you're going to start out right next to a cone, weight on your left foot if you're a righty, obviously. So you're going to be here. All we're going to do is replace my feet 3 times and throw. So you're going to be here, weights forward, shift 1, weight goes back. Literally, all you're doing, a lot of guys struggle with this. A lot of guys go like this. That's not it. Your base is too wide, your weight is too forward. You literally want to replace your left foot with your right foot. Weight gets back. So again, I'm here. 1, go back. 2, go back. Notice how light I stay. 3, shoot through and throw, just like that same throwing mechanic sequence that we had. So I'm going to show you how this drill is going to look full speed. Again, great drill to work on you getting your weight back with a hitch. All right, guys, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. Always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you would like to come out and train with us in 15 different cities this offseason, we are coming out all the way from San Francisco to Miami, Florida, Buffalo, New York, all over the country, you guys. So very first link in that description below. If you'd like to work with us, I'll see you guys next time.